Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And welcome to another episode of
The Super Data Brothers Super Show.
That's right. I am Ryan.
I am Eric.
And we are two real-life brothers who work in the data and analytics industry. And have we got a good one for you today, folks?
We sure do. You know, I'm so excited today's show, Ryan, because we're having a friend of the show, Tiankai, back on, and we're talking about AI, we're talking about BI, we're talking about books, we're talking about Databricks, we're talking about heroes of history, we're talking about everything. So it's going to be a good show.
Let's do it. All right. We also are doing our first ever Substack Live. So if you're catching us on Substack, welcome to the Super Data Brothers show. We do this almost every Thursday when we're in season, and do great interviews, cover topics related to data, AI, analytics, and all that good stuff. We're happy to have you here. And so let's kick things off, okay? First things first, we have to thank today's sponsor, and that is Good Data. Coming up on November 12th, we have a webinar you are not going to want to miss. It's about agentic AI in the financial services and fintech industry. So this is really going deep on how you can use agentic capabilities in order to deliver things for your customers in financial services. Of course, there's a lot that goes into that. Financial services is highly regulated. The risk of data exposure or regulatory intervention is huge. So your AI can't be some goofy fly-by-night thing. It's got to be rock solid. And that's what we're covering over the course of this webinar. Again, it's November 12th at noon Eastern time. I will be on there with a couple people from Good Data. So go ahead and join us there. All right. Let's not waste any time. Let's get Tiankai onto the show and then get rolling.
Yep. Oh,
Hi.
Tiankai, welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me again.
welcome.
Welcome. So listen, people, Tiankai is very popular, and this is your opportunity to get your questions into the chat that you want to ask Tiankai about his book, about data, about the news items we're going to cover today, about how he got so good at writing those data-themed jingles that we all love. So this is a live show. We read your comments live and get them answered by our guest. So get them into the chat. Of course, if you let us know where you're watching from, we will always give you a shout out. So get that in as well. All right. So, Tiankai, before we jump into the news and everything, why don't you introduce yourself really briefly? You've been on the show before, so our audience knows who you are.
Sure, but still, right? Just in case, especially with the Substack viewers, who knows if they know me or not, right? I've only recently joined there. So I'm Tiankai. I currently work as a director for data and AI strategy. And yeah, I'm very passionate about the human side of data and AI, which is why I wrote 2 books about it. Humanizing Data Strategy, which was released last year, and now Humanizing AI Strategy, which was released 2 months ago. And yeah, I'm very happy that we can discuss AI strategy this time. I'm very excited about it. I like to make data and AI also more approachable. So as you mentioned, I like to use music, sometimes make jokes, I use memes, I tell stories about stuff. That's who I am. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here again.
And I got to say right away, we got 2 questions in the chat from Oliver and Habib here, both asking, is there going to be a song? I don't think we prepared one.
No.
And then we've got friend of the show, Aaron Wilkerson. I'm watching from my truck on my way to get Halloween candy. There you go.
Oh my God. Are you getting a truck full of candy? That's crazy, Aaron.
America is the land of abundance.
Yes.
Abundant trucks and abundant candy. So listen, we're going to get to the interview with Tiankai, and we're going to go deep on practitioner tips based on his latest book, Humanizing AI Strategy. But before we do, we've got a couple segments we do here on the Super Data Brothers show. And so we're going to kick those off with our hero of data. And so our hero of data this week is Commodore Grace Hopper. You may have heard of Grace Hopper, you may not have, but you have for sure been impacted by the work she did. So Grace Hopper fundamentally grew up in a world where computers only spoke ones and zeros. And she believed that computers should speak human language and not the other way around. So she's a Navy Rear Admiral. She has a math PhD, and she's one of the first true data translators. She built, Grace, the very first compiler, which is a tool that lets people write instructions in something close to language instead of raw machine code. So pretty much everything you've ever done in your career, if you've written code, it all comes back to Grace Hopper's work when she was with the Navy. She made programming accessible to everyone in modern day language. Every time you drag and drop in your BI tool or write SQL, that's Grace Hopper's influence on your career. She also, and I don't know, I can't determine if this story is apocryphal or not, but I love it, so we're gonna say it's real. She coined one of the most famous terms in all of tech, which is her team found a literal moth stuck in a relay in an old school computer, and she taped it into her logbook and labeled it first computer bug. And the term bug comes from Grace Hopper. So what is Grace Hopper's real superpower? It was that she was the pioneer of turning computer language into something human beings can understand, which is ultimately the foundation that all of our work depends on. So the next time your query runs, your compiler hums, or your dashboard tells an actual story, thank the Admiral who taught computers to speak human. That is Grace Hopper, hero of data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my favorite Grace Hopper quote: "The most dangerous phrase in the language is we've always done it this way." That
is an incredible quote. And welcome back to the show, Johnny. Johnny Winter's one of our regulars here lately, so it's good to see you, man. All right, so a couple news items, and then we'll get into the interview with Tiankai. So, like I said, get your questions into the chat, and we will ask Tiankai whatever they are. So, news items we wanted to cover today. Let's start with Amazon lays off 30K and kills Ryan's favorite game. And so this was, I'm sure you've all seen the news. I figured we would cover it. I heard an interesting take on this, actually, which was that, AI, Amazon saying, oh, AI has made us so much more efficient, and that's why we can, we don't need as many humans, is actually posturing for Wall Street. And that really, the problem that Amazon has is that AWS is not particularly competitive in the AI space, and that they needed to free up capital to buy many billions of dollars worth of GPUs. And that's why they did this layoff. So I heard that take. I thought that was pretty interesting. I hadn't heard it anywhere else. It does make sense to me. I don't know. Certainly in our customer base at Good Data and the people I talk to, it seems like AI workloads at the enterprise level are predominantly running more on Azure and GCP that I see than AWS. Yeah. I don't know, Tiankai, if you have any feel for that, but that's kind of what I've experienced.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, that could be what's driving this. Of course, killing my favorite game is just like salt in the wound. The 30K getting laid off is obviously much more important, but that stinks too, that they, laid off Amazon. There's a whole studio in California that produces online role-playing games. The whole studio got blown up, which is unfortunate, especially because they were working on a Lord of the Rings game.
Mm-hmm. And that's going away.
It's gone, right? That was like my whole dream. When this Lord of the Rings game comes out, I'm going to take a week off from work, and now I'm going to have to find something else to do during that week. All right. Coming up on our next news item, I wanted to share this interesting research paper that I found about Data Lab, which is a unified platform for LLM-powered business intelligence. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is this paper wasn't just recently released. It was most recently updated in April. But there's two things of note about this. And you should check it out and read the whole thing. One is that this is really kind of a very intriguing architecture for a new LLM-powered BI environment. And I can't find any evidence that anyone is commercializing this yet, although we know that's a very common pattern. Someone releases a research paper, and then someone else takes the research paper, goes in and raises a bunch of capital to build the thing in the research paper. And so we may see that here. But this is really, I think, an intriguing vision of like what a true agentic BI platform might look like. That's built from the ground up for agentic BI instead of someone kind of bolting a chatbot into their dashboard maker. And that's what's one thing that's interesting here. The other thing that's interesting is to me is that this research comes out of China, and I think there's starting to be a lot of really exciting data research coming out of China's premier tech companies and research institutions. You can see a lot of that in StarRocks, for example, which is kind of an emerging MPP database that I know people have implemented, and I hear really great things about it. And that comes out of Chinese research. And so that's the other thing is, I mean, just like put on my prediction hat, I think we're going to see more and more of that in the data industry going forward, especially as China really maintains a very high level of focus on technology research, and certain other countries in the world are maybe backing off of that a little bit. And so we'll see what happens there. Tiankai, I'm kind of curious, like among your customers and the people you work with, where are they on kind of the AI BI space? Like, I mean,
yeah. I mean, BI. So when we basically got through this first year of AI hype, or first 2 years of AI hype, and specifically Gen AI, I think the most solid use cases were about software development, right? Really related to coding. So it was a lot about how to make it to increase productivity among development and coders. And I think now the second wave feels like it's tackling BI, right? So it's really about if we can make a BI conversational and we don't have to produce just masses of dashboards anymore. Is that a possibility? Would that actually make it work? So I think it's getting more and more. So I see actually that direction also happening more. And it really comes down to one thing, though, right? Because it's really from a human point of view, right? And you all know how excited I am about human beings. I don't always want to go through the effort of talking to a chatbot to actually get the metrics. For me, it's sometimes enough just to click on something and see it at a glance, and then I can move on, right? So is it really going to replace it just from a human motivation and human behavior point of view? Or is it more driven, again, just by the hype that we could talk to the data, but we don't always need to talk to the data, just like we don't always want to talk to people either, right? Sometimes we just want to call them, right? So it's kind of the similar thing. So it's an interesting thing to observe and see where it goes.
I agree completely. I just imagine if all you had was a chat interface to talk to your data, how tedious it would be to get up every day and type in the same 18 questions. It would drive you crazy.
Exactly.
So it definitely has a place in BI. It's very important, but I see predictions of like, oh, we're not going to have dashboards anymore because we'll just use chat. I cannot more emphatically disagree with that statement.
Yeah.
And then as it relates to BI, kind of the final piece we wanted to share, we do a lot of BI industry updates here, and we try to keep you up to speed with what the different vendors are doing. Databricks did their AI BI fall update, and we won't go point by point through what they've done, but the real thing I want to focus on here is actually the velocity that Databricks is building in their AI BI and Genie. So they have two halves of it. There's a BI component, and then there's what's called Genie. That's their natural language query interface. And they are just shipping new features so quickly. And that's really what I wanted to focus on. I think, Tiankai, you kind of before the show were sharing a story about you're interacting with Databricks recently at Helsinki Data Week and what that felt like. Why don't you tell everybody about that?
So I was back actually from Helsinki Data Week, and there was a Databricks event on Monday evening, basically, right? And there was basically a little bit of a get-together at a bar, and they were doing a talk. And I feel like the way how they presented themselves and the way how they talked about a little bit what's coming, it does feel like a lot of confidence, I would say, right? In Databricks, it does feel like they're going to take over a lot of what was more the expertise of other tools, and they're gonna basically generate their own features for it. And it feels like for BI, it feels like a similar thing, right? Where they were not as big before, but now they're gonna embed more and more features related to BI to make it work. And where they cannot make it work, they do partnerships now, right? That's just like the one with SAP, for example, and other big players to actually kind of, if they cannot be in it, then at least partner up with the winners, right? So I think that's a really interesting strategy, at least from the outside. But yeah, really interesting to observe.
It does seem Databricks' strategy in general is they first ask themselves, can we build this ourselves?
Yeah.
And they, you don't see that. Like, I feel like Snowflake is more of an acquisition first strategy where they go out, they say, hey, we want some feature set. They go out and try to buy it. Whereas Databricks' first move is, can we build it? And they clearly felt they could with BI. In fact, the guy who runs BI over there was in charge of shipping Google Analytics. So they really, I mean, they went out like, and I think this is Databricks' strategy. We want to get into a market. Can we go get some extreme high-end talent and bring them in-house? And then if they can't, then they look to partner, right? And there's so a couple comments that we had coming in. First, it's kind of funny. We have Johnny Winter here. Imagine driving your car and constantly saying, how fast am I going? And Aaron Wilkerson, when I'm driving my truck, I just want to see speed. I don't want to talk to my truck to ask how fast I'm going. So
really good, which is a really good example because it's literally a dashboard, right, that you have there. So that's
it is
the
literal dashboard.
Exactly.
Exactly. And then here we have Gabby tuning in from Portugal. Well, welcome. I got to tell you, I've been to Portugal once in my life. Had a fabulous time. Would love to go back. So Gabby, if you can. Maybe there's a conference there or something that I could try to speak at. Let me know. She said she ended up here purely by chance. Well, welcome to the show. She's never heard of Super Data Brothers, but following Tiankai is very interesting.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gabi. Nice to see you here.
She's really wants to talk about workplace Gen AI strategy or lack thereof, and is currently trying to find some reason in her frustration with some companies going hype first. The hype is out of control right now, isn't it, Tiankai?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought that by the time I would publish my book about AI strategy, it would be outdated again, or I was afraid about it. But it does feel like the opposite. It does feel like more timely than ever, and actually, it might be better for more people to read my book, hopefully, to not go hype first, but people first, right? So let's talk about it more, for sure.
Absolutely. Eric, I'm kind of curious, like, what is the hype level like in education?
It's pretty high. It's education, as you may know, has been getting federal budget cuts. So a lot of times people are saying, I hear about AI. Can AI fix these 3 employees that we're losing? And the answer is no, but there's a lot of interest for that. And just beyond that, there's like a lot of interest for like chatbot for students, professors. A lot of professors are just like, okay, well, I have all this teaching material. How can I put this into like LLM chatbot so like my students can chat? So like in higher ed, from like the teaching, like there's a lot of interest from the research side, obviously, but from like the teaching, the actual like university side, like there's a lot of interest as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then Johnny says here, AI BI continues to impress with the speed of innovation. Reminds me of early days Power BI. I agree, but then he says it's still a rubbish name.
Yeah, maybe that means I should start doing. Yeah, maybe that means I should start doing AI BI tutorial videos, so I can write if that's going to be the next wave of tutorial videos. I can be like those people who were making Power BI tutorials in 2020.
Yeah, the guy in a cube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Oliver says it's like the old Alien movies where they have to type text into an interface just to receive cryptic information about having a hostile organism on board. There could have been a better way to access this data. They definitely needed a hostile alien dashboard, right? It would have told them right away. Like the line chart of like chances you'll be eaten would have been, the projection would have been going way up. And then Gabby says, a data song, I'm intrigued. So Tiankai did share, we may have a Halloween data medley that we can share later on in the show. So do stick around for that. All right. So the let's talk about the book a little bit, Tiankai. And I know you've done tons of interviews about the book. And obviously it's about AI strategy. Mm-hmm. So we can talk about AI strategy, but actually where I want to ground this conversation first is in kind of the practical implications of it for practitioners. Mm-hmm. So I've actually heard from a lot of people who have read both of your books, and on LinkedIn, for example, I've talked to people in the DMs and things, and many of them do not have titles like Director of AI Strategy or CDO or something like that. So let's say you're a data engineer or an analyst or a BI person. You're starting to get roped into AI conversations and AI projects. How can people really take the lessons of your book and apply them do you think, like, where do you start with applying the lessons of your book as a practitioner?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, I think I know that the books are titled strategy, which always implies kind of that only decision makers are supposed to read those books. But I really try to be practical, and all the things I write are supposed to be also doable or implementable also on lower ground and for the operational folks, I would say, right? And what that means is because I talk more about, let's say, the principles of working and certain values that we should implement in our day-to-day work. And it's not about how you should make certain decisions ABC. It's more about keep those things in mind when you work in the day-to-day, and when you make a decision strategically, then consider that. And I mean, one big example, let's say, would be, and I addressed that very early, for example, in my book, is to shift the question, for example, from what can AI do to should I do this with AI or not, right? Like, it's a very small change in it, but instead of just blowing it all up and looking at all the world and everything that you can do with AI, like there's this famous quote, right? If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So if you look at it from that sense, you're just going to apply it to everything. And you're going to be very disappointed how this is not really usable or efficient, or many ways of this. But switching it around and turning it around into more of a should I do this with AI implies two things. One is, first of all, have I selected the right problems to solve, right? Like, should I do this? And is AI actually the right technology or the right tool to solve it with, right? And actually, just by already having those two questions one after another should change people's minds a little bit, right? And I think that's something that we can all do in our day-to-day, right? When we are next confronted with a conversation about AI hype and like everyone wants to do something about it, just like ask it, right? Should we do this with AI, or is there a better option? Is there an easier option? And is this even the right thing that we should do with AI, or are we here just kind of blinded by the hype around it? And I think from there, then there's a lot of things that I address in the book, right, on how we actually use the 5 C's, right, and how we actually can then address in the right way.
Could you give us real quick an overview? You mentioned the 5 C's. Could you just give a quick overview of what those are in case anybody's not familiar?
Absolutely. So the 5 C's are competence, collaboration, communication, creativity, and conscience. And it's basically about those C's becoming like a kind of a device just to memorize why certain traits and needs of human beings need to be considered. And especially thinking from a lens of that we need the right skill set and mindset, right, to actually introduce the right behavior into an organization, finally changing the culture around things, and thereby putting people first all around. That is kind of the idea behind the 5 C's.
Let's talk about that last C, conscience, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend? I can see this could be an area where people might find themselves in kind of a tough situation occasionally when it comes to what they're being asked to do with AI. How do you think about conscience as it applies to AI and in particularly in the data space? You know, when it comes to different tasks we might be given to automate, or evaluations or predictions we might be asked to make with AI, and conscience. You know, how does conscience fit into that? And what do you recommend for people who find themselves in a situation where they're kind of saying, I'm not so sure about this one, with a request they might get from leadership?
Yes. And that is, I think, exactly the key there, where the gut feeling tells us something, right? If we don't feel so good about a certain thing that we need to do with AI, there's a reason for that. But the reason why we cannot actually specify what might actually go wrong is because it's more of a sense that something might go wrong, and it's a very high likelihood that it will go wrong. The thing about it is that with AI, it's not like that we have a lot of experience scaling it on big amounts of different use cases so far, meaning we have actually not seen all of the potential bad consequences of doing it. Meaning that we can only, based on the small sample size of failures we have seen publicly or we have experienced ourselves, and we try to make the best out of it. But we are actually tapping into a lot of dangerous waters that we don't know if we're stepping in the right place or not, right? And if we don't actually know what might go wrong, it's also hard to communicate it, right? It's that thing where I have a feeling that this could go in a very difficult area, but I cannot prove it, right? So how do you actually have the conversation with leadership? So I think in that sense, right, there's only one big principle that I always like to say, which is it's always easier to prevent than to actually clean up things, right? And in AI, if we translate it, meaning if we mess up things and we actually amplify mistakes, sometimes it's so much harder than to actually clean it up, because AI can do mistakes very quickly and at scale, right? Because it actually amplifies things, and if it applies the same patterns that is wrong, then a lot of things might go wrong, and who knows if it's possible to avert all of that. So let's rather just take a few more steps to think it through and talk to the right experts as well to see what the potential consequences could be before we go something, especially if a few people have a bad feeling about it. Let's try to discuss it, right, and not ignore it just for the sake of speed. But let's just take one step in between and see if this might have any consequences or not.
A couple comments from the audience to share. So Sarah says, good analogy with the hammer and the AI. Absolutely. We see that everywhere. And then Gabby says, preach, especially for the everyday knowledge worker upon whom Copilot is pushed, my current interest. Asking, should I do with this with AI is the first question they should ask themselves. And as a Copilot trainer, it is one of the things I really try to hammer down. Also focus on basic productivity first before getting into complex automation and shiny projects and agents. And that's, I think that's a very wise thing. And I'd like to get your take on that. I mean, there's so much focus right now in the industry on agents and automation, but do you think there's still a lot of productivity to be gotten from just an individual learning how to use it better in their day-to-day work?
Absolutely. I mean, I think even just with the current possibilities of creating workflows very easily nowadays, right? I think it can help a lot, right? I mean, just think about scheduling your calendar invites, and if you could do it rule-based a little bit to set up things, and you don't have to do it manually in a calendar anymore. That sounds like a pretty good calendar productivity increase to me, right? Same with writing things, right? Often in data governance, for example, people have to spend a lot of time writing policies, right? If you can get an LLM to help you to get started, you don't have to write it all in prose, and then you just fill in the blanks and change it to whatever is needed. That is also a great idea. So a lot of the tedious things that weren't fun for people in the past, and I'm not going to offend anyone because some people do think it's fun, but for me it's not fun. So that's just maybe that kind of a clarification. Can now be automated and be intelligently automated too. And I think with that is the thing, right? Where if we are in control and it helps us as a person, it's different than when someone else top down says, we're going to introduce agents, and they are implying that it might actually make my job redundant. And that is exactly kind of the danger that we're in, right? Where does automation start and where does it end, right? Because a lot of the narratives and a lot of the unspoken things out there in the industry are that agents are going to replace human beings. And this is something that we really have to think through, because even with human beings, right? We just talked about the whole dashboard versus talking thing. Do we actually feel comfortable of having completely human beings out of the loop in the future? Because I don't think we do, right? Like if we think about like financial transactions, right? Would we actually on enterprise level let agents do it completely? Or do we actually need people to still oversee that the money is going in and out in the right way, right? Simply said. Or do we actually trust agents completely to make medical diagnosis and give us any kind of pharmaceuticals and give us the right kind of things? Or do we actually still want a doctor to look over it, right? I think at some point we reach that point where do we feel as human beings comfortable that it's all automated? And that tells a lot about if actually agents are going to replace all human beings, because I think we're going to then quickly roll back and realize we need actually a balance of both.
Yeah, the one thing that kind of struck me when you were talking there, it really occurred to me for the first time. We talk a lot in the data influencer community, I'll say, about AI is going to take the boring stuff or the things that you don't like, and it will automate that. Let's say you're a data analyst or a data engineer, and then you can really focus on like the better stuff, working with the end users and delivering value and figuring out what to build and not how to build it. And one of the things I question is like, I actually think there's a very strong bias. The type of people who become data influencers are the type for whom working with the end users and figuring out what to do was really exciting. But I think for a
Right.
lot of people in data, figuring out how to do it is the fun, right? Like
Right.
figuring out, like solving the problem of the logic puzzle that is the data pipeline, or
Got it.
building the perfect dashboard. Like that was the fun part, right?
Yes.
And dealing with the end users. I mean, I can tell you, especially someone who's worked in enterprise IT a lot. There are a lot of people in enterprise IT for whom, if you say, "Oh, we're going to automate your data pipelines, and now you're going to work with end users all day," they're like, "That is hell."
Yeah.
So I mean, I do think that there's kind of a, part of the hype in the data space is this idea of like, oh, we're going to focus on the human parts. I think a lot of data people
Right.
actually, that's scary for them. And
Yeah, but I think there's a little bit of a different flavor to it in my point of view, right? So I do get that you're splitting it up between the, let's say, introverted work and the
Yep.
I'm in the zone, I'm going to
Mhm.
figure all the things out and do it on my own, versus I have to talk to a lot of people work, right? But I think within the critical thinking work and figuring things out, it's not all repetition, right? Because that is the part that will be automated. But I would argue that a lot of the figuring out work is not automatable, right? The whole thing of investigating where a root cause of an issue comes from, or actually coming up with an innovative new framework or a new architecture kind of diagram, those are things that even if you use AI for support, you still have to put your mind to it, and you actually have to think it through and do something. So what I hope is actually that if we automate things and we can delegate all of these repetitive, tedious things to AI, then we actually are more human, even in the work that was more isolated and for ourselves. We just have more time to do it because then implementing it is quicker, right? So that gives us relatively more time to figure it out, because we don't have to then consider, if we don't hit the deadline, we're not going to make it on time because it has like a 6-month implementation period. Let's say that is reduced to 1 month now, then we actually can spend many more months to figure it out more. So I think that is maybe the thing we have to just consider, where, right, it's not only human work with end users or working alone on repetition stuff. There's all of that critical thinking and that figuring out things that human beings are good at, that hopefully we can do more. That's the optimistic take on it, I would say. Yeah.
yeah, I tend to agree with you. I just think I do hear from people who are say like, listen, I hate being in meetings with end users. And I guess my advice to them is like, well, I get that, right? But the industry's changing. We go through these periodic,
Mhm.
The way things tend to go is like incremental advancement that can go on for 10 or 20 or 40 years. And then suddenly, boom, something comes along, everything changes. And this is reality, is we're in that phase right now. And so
Yeah.
I think you need to embrace your inner product manager, I guess, who falls in love with the problem and not the solution. I don't know what you see at MSU when it comes to this sort of thing, Eric.
Yeah, so there's a lot of it's hard, like with the university, universities are in the world of research are often years ahead, and in the world of application are often years behind. So as far as that goes, with like the management and like becoming, so as far as like automating the everyday tasks, I think you guys are right. So there's like using an LLM, like people jump to that, but that's not necessarily the most efficient thing. But like that's what people jump to because honestly, it's kind of sexy. But what LLMs can do is help automate writing the Python script that actually does the pipeline that you need, right? So I think that's where the university space is. I think honestly that's where everybody is. It's like everyone's jumping to do, can an LLM evaluate these outputs and give recommendations? It's like, maybe, but like maybe if you just like use the LLM to write the Python to do the pipeline to like send the stuff where it's supposed to go, like you're going to get 10 times more use out of that than you would out of LLMs suggest this, and it's like, okay, well that's cool, I guess, but like I'm still doing all this busy work to get to this point. So,
Tiankai, in your role as director of data and AI strategy at ThoughtWorks, I understand you can't share, you're probably NDA'd on a lot of stuff, but
Right.
how big is the gap that you see kind of between the leading AI companies or the leading companies you work with and the lagging companies as far as what they're doing with AI. We see a lot of examples in the world of these theoretical agentic frameworks, but we don't hear a lot of stories about them actually working in the real world. What are you seeing as far as that goes?
I think you're right. I think I would classify most of them in the I'm figuring it out kind of phase still, right? And I want to see how we can make it work. And we're trying some things out, but we haven't completely figured it out yet, right? That is like, I think, the biggest bucket of companies I've been seeing. Then there's a few that are really good at it, and they have, for example, in the pharmaceutical space, would create research and development agents that are doing really cool stuff, and they are really helping them with coming up with new drugs, for example, or coming up with new great kind of things that can cure things. That is really cool, right? Even in the medical space, right? Just doing medical research is it's I think really, really good stuff there. But then you also have on the other end of the spectrum, right, all of those that are having a really hard time to catch up with everything, right? So they have not even invested a lot in modernizing their data platforms and general platform structure in the company, and now all of a sudden they want to do AI. It's close to impossible, right? It's like they're so old school and so deep into legacy that it's impossible for them to now quickly get out of it. So all they can do is now invest a lot, try their best to modernize, and incrementally try starting to do AI, because it's a serious competitive edge thing, right? If they can even keep up with the market, to be able to do things as fast and as effective as the competitors might be doing. So yeah, I think that is roughly what I'm seeing there.
Okay. That's awesome. We got a couple comments and questions in the chat that we'll try to get to here. But listen, folks, if this is your first time tuning into Super Data Brothers, and you like this sort of thing, I have got a great solution for you. Watch us next week. Head over to youtube.com/c/Super Data Brothers. That's the channel. We do the live show there. We do tutorial videos, predominantly in the BI space. I'm thinking about doing a video about how to use DuckDB and MotherDuck in analytics, like a practitioner's guide. We'll see if that comes together. But check us out there. Subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Of course, follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Ryan Dolley. I post all the time there. Eric is not crazy, and so he's not on LinkedIn like I am. He's a well-adjusted.
I don't post very much.
He's a well-adjusted person, whereas I am not. And so
neither am I. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, superdatablog.substack.com if you're into more long-form written pieces. I would also like to plug two things here. Of course, the Data in the D conference. If you're in Detroit, you got to come. If you're not in Detroit, come to Detroit. That might not be a phrase that you think of in your head very often, but listen, Detroit is America's comeback city. You are going to be blown away by what Detroit is like in reality versus what's in your head, I promise you. So check out datainthed.org to see the conference. We're very close to selling out. So if you've been thinking about buying a ticket, you really do not have much time left. That conference is coming up next Saturday, November 8th. And then finally, the Super Data Brothers, as always, will be at Data Day Texas this year. Tiankai, are you coming to Data Day Texas?
Maybe. I'm talking to Lynn, so we're figuring things out.
Okay.
But yes, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully, Tiankai will be at Data Day Texas. It's incredible, and you can use the code Super Data Brothers, all one word, to get, I think, 20% off your registration. So if you all do want to come to Data Day Texas, use that code. We don't get any kickback for it or anything. This is not sponsored content. We just love the conference, and we love helping you save a little bit of money to go see it. So use that code and check us out. Okay. Thanks for sitting through the mid-show advertising, Tiankai.
Yeah, no problem.
So Aaron makes a point. Would you rather be employed or antisocial? In this new world, it's going to be harder to stay in the basement away from other people. I just think that's, as machines can do more, I think the human element of it, the way that we can interact with one another that in a way that machines can't, it has to become more and more valuable, I think. And so that's a really good point, Aaron. And then Tom says, sadly, I got to drop. We'll catch the rest on replay. I snuck in late too. Thanks, Tom. Tom is one of our regulars here. Actually, my very first job as in BI, Tom was a consultant at that company, and that's where we met and stayed in touch. So And that's honestly my biggest piece of career advice for anybody watching is like make friends and keep them.
I love that. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got about 17 minutes left. If you have any questions, of course, get them in. As you can see, you ask them and we ask them. That's how it works here on the Super Data Brothers show today. So I do want to talk a little bit about, we forgot one very important thing to plug, Tiankai.
What is it? What could it be? Yeah.
What could it be? Folks, if you haven't read Tiankai's book,
you got on mute, Ryan, suddenly.
Ryan,
you're on mute. Ryan, you're on mute.
He was about to grab your book and plug it.
So excited to grab the book that he turned the microphone off. Oh, there he is.
No, say something.
No,
say something.
Audio. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's back. You're back.
I don't know what happened. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't hear you.
Wow.
Eric, plug Tiankai's book while I fix this.
Okay, well, I don't have a copy of the book, but let me tell you, folks, this is a great book. All right, you learned about humanizing data strategy. All right, so now you got to learn about something else. You got to learn about AI, how to humanize AI strategy, and what to do with AI. So if you're interested in the book, check it out. Tiankai, why should people buy your book?
Yeah, I mean, the humanizing AI strategy really, for me, is in contrast to humanizing data strategy, an opportunity to do the right thing from the beginning, right? Because in data strategy, a lot is rooted in the mistakes we did in the past and how we actually can now learn from it. But my argument is let's learn from what we did wrong in data and let's not do the same mistakes in AI again. And let's think about people's transparency immediately. And this is why I think there's a lot of smaller nuggets of advice and examples of how to do things like what does human in the loop even mean? How does accountability work for AI? How do we put in guardrails also to have a voice of the brand, for example, when we talk about communication? How does communication human to machines, machines to human, and machines to machines work? All these kind of things are addressed in the book. And yeah, I hope that people can get something out of it and at least take away some human centricity principles for the day-to-day.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm back.
Can you hear us, Ryan?
Yeah, I can hear you. I have no idea what happened, but I switched audio outputs and now it's working again. So whatever, I'm back. Check out Tiankai's book. I love it. Tiankai asked me to blurb it. I was thrilled to do it. And so get a copy. If you see Tiankai, he can sign it. If you see me, I'll sign my blurb.
Yep. Okay. All right. So you've been talking a lot. How about I ask you a question, Ryan?
Yeah, go for it.
So Tiankai, I noticed when you were summarizing your book, one of the first things you said was like what we did wrong in data and like there it is, humanizing AI strategy. What we did wrong in data and like how do we avoid doing the same thing in AI? So then I'll put a question to you. What did we do wrong in data? And how do we avoid doing the same thing in AI?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think with data, right? I think at some point we have lost a little bit our way in being too dogmatic and too, I would say, architectural about the whole thing, right? Like we came up with all of these principles of how it would work. A typical example for me is how data products came into the world. And in the very beginning, it made a lot of sense. And let's apply product thinking to data. And we put customer and value first. And that is a really good thing to do when we work with data. And then at some point, it shifted. And as typically in the data community, it became a very pedantic discussion about what is the definition of a data product. And people would spend hours and days and months at conferences online on LinkedIn, discuss what a data product is, and losing the purpose of just making it fit for the purpose of a customer to generate value with it, right? Yeah. And this is something I just don't want us to go in the same place again, right? And with AI, to not think in conceptual ways and thinking how cool modern architectures are, how much computation power is, how inference works, and all of that. Yeah. Let's just make it valuable for people, right? And let's talk to people to understand what is valuable for them and then do it in the right way. That's like, I would summarize it in that way. That's the main way I want us to focus on.
Gotcha. I would totally agree. So sometimes I'd be sitting at conferences, and like everyone talking in the room, they'd be some sort of like data influencer. And like I have the show, but like I have a day job where I manage a BI team and an AI team, like a data science team. So sometimes I'd be sitting and be in these conference rooms and I'd be thinking, wow, this sounds really cool. What do I do with this? Right? It's like this. Okay, we're talking about what really is a semantic layer. What really is a data product? Is that really a data product? It's like, that sounds great, guys, but like I need to take something home from this conversation and talk to my C levels and like say something that makes sense that I can actually do. So like I totally agree with you that like we definitely make mistakes in data of being like, whoa, what really is this? And like maybe we can avoid that in AI.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would say we do. So I just checked. We do actually have people watching on Substack. So if you're on Substack and you've never been to seen an episode of the Super Data Brothers show before, this is a live show. It's not a pre-recorded interview. Substack has a chat. If you get your question in the chat, I will ask it to Tiankai. So this is your chance. If you've read either of his books, Humanizing Data Strategy or Humanizing AI Strategy, this is your chance to get your questions in, and Tiankai will answer them. I am watching the Substack chat, so I have it up. If you got a question, ask it there, and I will get it through. Tiankai, I'm curious. We've got about 10 minutes left. What do you think is the most important thing for a practitioner to be learning right now? Is it AI skills? Is it how to gather requirements? Is like it's just one thing. It's 2025, towards the end of the year. This is the thing you should be learning. Do you have a feel for what that would be?
Wow, that's a big question. I think it's everything a little bit, unfortunately, right? I think this is the thing, right? We live in that current times where it's uncertain what will be expected of us, unfortunately, right? So technology is evolving, business models are evolving, society is evolving, and we're all considering a lot of shifts in this space. So we don't know what the future of our jobs will look like, right? Will I still even have the same job title and will just consider a lot of new tasks? Or will I have to change my whole job, but it will be a lot of transferable skills from right now? And what I can only say is, right, to not lose the skill of learning itself, right? Meaning try to stay flexible and learn what you need to learn. Always be warmed up to be able to try to dive into topics that you haven't heard about and understand it and dive deeper if you have to. But don't lose that skill of trying to understand and get into new topics and try to understand it, because I think this is the only way to go, right? Every day I'm looking up so many things because I've never heard of them and I have to figure it out now. And then I have to, in my head, do a lot of brain work to actually see how it fits into the bigger picture that I'm working on, right? And that is something I noticed. It's really a matter of practice, right? The more you do it, the more you feel confident about it, and the more you can confidently show up and also interact with others about these topics. So I would say it's more about the skill of learning itself to never lose, because that human learning that we have, that is something that will always make us very unique. And as long as you have that, I think you can always adapt to what comes next.
Awesome. So speaking of being creative, learning new things, being open, I think we have a little treat here. Eric, did you get the the video ready to roll?
Yeah, I got the video files.
All right. Tiankai, do you want to intro us to this real quick while Eric pulls it up?
Sure. So basically, this is one day before Halloween, right now. And very timely, I created a medley of Halloween songs about data. So since many of you asked for a data song, why not do it in a timely manner? So here is now Halloween songs about data as a small medley for all of you.
All right, let's it.
If there's something wrong with the quality, we're gonna call data stewards. The data issues, nobody's watching them. Data observability. He did the mesh, it was a data mesh. He did the mesh, tried only technical. He did the mesh, the the business impact failed, he did the mash, so they banned the data mesh. And if I only could, I'd make contracts default, get them everywhere implemented, be running up lineage, finding the origin, be running up that lineage. Forgot the filter in this graph, it's only aggregated, so no user really cares. Adding this filter really fast, got a message on the users, brought that filter tonight. I got no story to tell, and the business doesn't care. Everybody, yeah, gets their data, yeah, but they don't have skills and export to Excel. Self-service going to fail. I'm a data product that's under your bed, where no one will find me cause I'm not registered. You're looking for me, stop holding your breath, cause I'm not discoverable, yeah. Don't trust AI. Hallucination, yeah, hallucination, yeah, hallucinations, yeah, hallucinations, yeah. Error, syntax error is breaking your code. Another typo and it's all your fault.
That was pretty great.
That was amazing.
That's pretty good.
There's some real bangers in there. How did you, like, this is clearly the collision of like your career and something you're pretty passionate about. How did this first happen?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really remember how it happened in the first place, but give me just 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm so
That's
sorry.
all good. Don't worry about it. We're a kid-friendly show here.
Hey, we are a kid-friendly show.
Well, we're really not a kid-friendly show, but we accept them when they randomly
when they interrupt live streams.
Yeah, well, I mean, like my kids interrupt the live stream all the time, so it's like it's really not a big deal. I will tell you while Tiankai's gone. Like I just think I really admire his like merging of his artistic passions and data. I just wish we had more of that in this industry.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
I'm so sorry. I'm back.
No, it's all good. Listen, my kids barge through this door here constantly, so like, don't worry.
Okay. Okay. That was exactly what happened just now. So I just need to deal with it quickly.
Yep, it's fine.
Right. But about the creativity part. So I think for me, like writing songs or even just singing songs was always connected to what happens in my day to day. So I would be associating things that I observe or experience to music. Right. And I think it probably happened like 5 years ago or something. I started realizing that some of the songs I listened to could have a relationship to the mundane things that happen in data and AI that I work in, right? And I just kind of realized I could probably connect it, and people would probably enjoy it, especially the ones that know the songs already in its original, and now in this reinterpretation, what of course get a lot of fun out of it to see how it works. And you're right, it becomes kind of a muscle as well, because now that I can turn those things into music, I'm extra observant about how basically things can turn into music sometimes. And yeah, it's really nice to have that kind of eye now and ear, basically, to look at things, experience things, and say, oh, this is probably a great song that I could write about or something, you know. So yeah, it's fun.
Aaron shares here. I get annoyed when I see Ryan's kids on the live stream. Hashtag unprofessional.
Unprofessional.
The hell, Aaron. Aaron is my IRL friend, so he's obviously just joking, right? Aaron, by the way, is the creative force behind the Data in the D conference. So you know, big shout out to him for making it happen. I think we'd all still be talking about it if it weren't for Aaron. So thanks, dude. And I hope you get lots of candy in that truck. We do got a question here. So this is going to be the last question we're going to be able to take because we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank everybody again for tuning in. If you like this sort of thing, we're live next Thursday at the same time. Follow me on LinkedIn. Check out our Substack. Go to our YouTube. Here's the question, Tiankai. What would be your advice to get the C-suite to actually meet their employees at the knowledge worker level in terms of expectations before setting weird and nonsensical KPIs instead of demanding fairy tales from their ivory towers? Gabby, I can tell you've been stung by this.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious, huh? Yeah, I mean, I guess, and I would assume here what happened, right? But the C-suite would put like adoption KPIs probably there as like how many people will need to have used Copilot, for example, or are using Copilot in the day-to-day by the end of the year. And that would look like a success because it looks like, oh, we are an AI-driven company now because most of our employees are using Copilot, for example, right? But the thing is, that's only the what and not the why, right? Because you have not actually mentioned what they are supposed to use it for, right? And this is where I would then actually just try to address it to the C-suite to address, can we maybe define certain journeys or certain paths of what knowledge workers are supposed to do with Copilot or with AI, right? And can we then measure the success rather on the use cases they are supposed to use it for, rather than only the direct metric of using it, right? Because just using a tool doesn't mean it's leading to a value. It just means they're using a tool, right? But if they use it for something meaningful and valuable, then actually you can generate value out of it. So connecting the usage then to business value in terms of productivity increase for specific departments or something, I think could be a really good approach there. So as always, I know it's hard to be against what C-suite is saying, but maybe in this case, it's more about yes, but also can we measure it additionally in this way? Because that would give the knowledge workers the motivation to apply it to a specific tasks that we ask them to do.
All right. Thank you, Tiankai, for joining us today. As always, it's been a real pleasure having you on. Where can people keep up with you?
Yeah, just on LinkedIn, of course. I also am on Substack now, so if people that are on Substack watching now, they can also follow me there, as well as all my music videos are on YouTube, so you can check them out on my YouTube channel as well.
And also, people, buy the book. Buy the book. It's great. Highly recommend it. It's definitely on the Super Data Brothers must-read books of 2025. So congratulations again. 2 bangers in a row, dude. So is the 3rd book coming out like within 12 months?
Not planned yet, no. I'm very tired from writing the first 2, so I might take a break for now.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Bask in the glow and enjoy it. All right. Thanks for joining us, Tiankai.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Love that, dude. Folks, thanks for joining us. You've been a great audience, especially those of you who are watching us for the first time on Substack. Welcome. Go ahead and subscribe to the Substack and follow us there if you like this kind of thing. Very thrilled to have you. And of course, before we leave, we got to thank our episode sponsor, Good Data. Tune in November 12th at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Central European Time for agentic AI in the financial industry. Listen, this is targeted at the finance industry, but there's a lot to learn here about how to deploy agentic analytics applications that you're going to see in this presentation. So we're going to be going deep on actual lessons we've learned at Good Data when it comes to deploying these things for finance and in general. So, if you've watched today's episode and you thought to yourself, man, this sounds awesome, this AI thing, but like, how do I really do it? How do I really develop some of these things? There will be a lot of lessons learned in this webinar. So tune in for that. I look forward to seeing you there. And yeah, so Eric, I think that's it. I think we're out of time.
I think that's it.
So join us next week for another episode of the Super Data Brothers. It was great having you here today, folks. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.